In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the front bumper on this Toyota Tacoma. Let's get started. Underneath each corner of the bumper on the frame, you'll see two 14mm bolts. Let's remove both from both sides. I'm going to leave them threaded in partially until I have everything ready to disconnect. That way the bumper doesn't fall off, of course. Do the same to the other bolts on the other side. On each side, you'll have to disconnect the turn signal bulb. Just press on the tab, wiggle the connector, and pull it off. Now you can also just twist counterclockwise on the socket. That should pop it out of the housing. However, then you have a ball just hanging out here. So I like to avoid that method if possible. That way I don't damage the ball by accident. There we go. Do this to both sides, of course. On each side, you are supposed to have a bracket with a bushing that looks like this, and well, the bushing's supposed to actually go right through here, the bolt with the bushing. In my case, this is already rotted off. Typically, you would disconnect it up here, or you could just loosen this 10mm mounting nut up. That'll release pressure off the bushing. And this bracket on the bumper is actually slotted, so you can slide this bumper backwards, down, and out. Once again, both of mine are completely missing and not doing anything, so there's nothing I can do about them. They're already disconnected. Once you're ready to remove the bumper, make sure you take both of the bolts out on each side completely. Get them out of the way. There is a pin, which is this right here. It goes through the frame, or on top of it actually. It kind of hooks on. The bumper will stay on to these brackets until you pull it off. Just be careful because it can fall. Now you should be able to pull the bumper right off. Of course, it still has those points on the corners that need to slide out. There we go. Now we have to separate the trim pieces off of the metal part of the bumper, and you'll see along the top you have a bunch of push clips. I know a couple of them are missing for me. Basically pop them off, and then the plastic trim piece here should come off. To get these push clips off, all you need is a trim tool, pry up on the center, and then the rest of it should come out. Keep in mind these are old and brittle. A lot of them will break, so have some to replace them if necessary. Now if you flip the bumper over across the bottom, you'll see several 10mm headed mounting nuts. We have to remove all of these. And then there are two bolts on each end. I'll show you those in a second. Those also hold on the plastic trim at the top here. Regardless, let's take all of these out. Sometimes these are so rusty, you're gonna have to get some locking pliers on and then finish taking it off with regular pliers. And of course, I'm gonna have to replace this hardware. This is not reusable. In each corner, this is what you'll see, a bolt that goes through a J-nut. Mine are impossible to use with a socket at this point. So I put some locking pliers on them. I'm gonna try and break them free. Most likely they're just going to break. Yep, that just broke the J-nut, so I have to cut this bolt. And on the other side, these two also broke for me. The J-nuts broke. Well, one bolt on the other side, one bolt completely broke, and then on the other bolt, the J-nut broke just like on this side. So we're gonna have to cut that bolt off. This one looks like there isn't much left to it, so I think the bolt is going to just fall out. Yep, there we go. Okay, so this is all separated here. The same way that we just removed all of the mounting nuts on that side, we have to remove all of the mounting bolts, also 10mm in size, on the bottom. I know this is flipped around, so this is the top, but this is the bottom part of the bumper assembly. This is the valance that holds the turn signals. So we have a bunch of 10mm headed bolts running across. We have to remove them all. Now between each turn signal and the bumper itself, you'll see this 10mm screw screwed into plastic here. If you have a ratcheting wrench, you can easily get it this way. If not, you'll probably have to pull the turn signal assembly off. If you do end up having to pull the turn signal all you have to do is just squish in on these two tabs. It pops right out. And then you can access it this way. Do the same on the other side. Now you'll be able to pull this away. There we go. The last thing we have to transfer over is going to be these brackets. There's one on each side, two 12mm nuts, and these should come off. Okay, there's one. Do the same on the other side. On the new bumper, let's get the brackets installed for the bumper support. I put a little bit of anti-seize all over this area. That way the threads are hopefully going to stay nice and rust-free for a little bit, as well as on the mounting nuts. Let's get these snugged up. Now let's install the lower panel, the valence panel. I'm going to start in a few bolts by hand. That way everything is held in place. And then I'm going to tighten all of them. Right where the turn signal assembly is, reinstall the screws that go into the plastic insert. Snug them up, but not too much. You don't want to strip out the plastic. And then of course reinstall the turn signal lens assembly. Slide it into one side, press it on till it clicks. That should be locked in. If it moves around a little bit, that's fine, as long as it's locked in. And on the corner, reattach any fasteners that you still might have. Unfortunately, a couple of them along the way here broke for me. I still have this one and a couple other ones, so put back whatever you still have. Flip this bumper assembly over and line up the top trim piece, the color matched one. There we go. In order for this not to fall out, I'm going to reinstall all of the push clips that hold it on so I can then flip it over and put all the hardware on, the metal hardware, which is basically just all the mounting nuts that hold this on. Now go along the center and reinstall all of the 10mm mounting nuts that you still have. For me, a couple of them I had to cut, and then I know there are some bolts on each side. I'll show you how I'm going to fix that situation, but reinstall all the hardware that you still have. Now hopefully this doesn't happen to you, and if it does, then here's how I'm going to fix it with hardware that I have laying around, unless you want to buy brand new J-nuts and different hardware that is basically an exact fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a bolt, a nut that fits on that bolt, and a washer. If you have one of those mounting nuts that has a washer built into it, even better. Basically, I'm just going to send the bolt down and through. Just like it did originally, but instead of a J-nut, I'm going to use a washer just to have a better area of clamping force here, and then a mounting nut that I'm going to hold with a wrench from underneath. I'm going to try to start it on. There we go, that caught onto the threads. Now I'm going to hold that with a wrench, tighten up the bolt, and that'll pull these two together and get them clamped on nice and tight. There we go, that's snug. None of this moves around. So do this to any areas that you need to re-secure and you don't have the hardware for it anymore. Now bring the bumper assembly in. Try to line it up with the brackets that come off of the frame on the vehicle side. Push it in. Just like that. It should pretty much stay in place. And now if you still have the two corner brackets, for me they're completely rotten away and useless, not doing anything. But if you still had those, you'd want to hook the bumper in, up and back out to basically get those bushings caught on. Like I said, for me, there's nothing there to hook onto. On each side, make sure the bumper bracket lines up and then install the bolts. Now you want to make sure that it's lined up equally on both sides, evenly, as well as with the body. You want the body line between the fender, the headlights, and the grille to be even with the top of the bumper cover. Once you've achieved that, tighten these up. 14mm socket. The torque on these is going to be 35 foot-pounds. Do the same to the other side. Don't forget to plug in the directional bulb on both sides. Once you're done with that, check the alignment of your front bumper assembly, make sure it's all good, and there you go, job is done.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.